Hey active mamas, are you looking for ways to progress your core workouts or not sure that you're really connecting with your core? And maybe you've even been experiencing some discomfort in your core, your pelvic floor, or even your low back when you go to do strenuous activities. I'm Alex Quartz and I'm a local physical therapist with a focus on women's health. And I have another question for you. Do you hate planks? Because I'll be honest, I used to hate planks too. Pre-pregnancy, I avoided them like the plague. Yes, I might give them out to a client or two when they needed it, but when it came to me, I just felt like they were really difficult for my body and I just didn't see the point at the time. So enter postpartum Alex, and again, I'm not sure about you, but early postpartum, it was really challenging for me to get up off the ground. This was strange for me because I was a pretty active person in general. So I really needed a whole body exercise to help address this. So we're going to talk about that exercise today. And I'm sure you've already guessed it. It's the plank. Now, quick caveat, if you are pregnant, stay tuned because we will talk about modifications so that you can prepare for this before it really becomes an issue postpartum. As always, what we discuss in this video is just for informational and educational purposes. Individual medical advice and exercise clearance should be coming from your own provider. Now, if you have been experiencing things like diastasis recti or a hernia, and you're having difficulty generating abdominal tension, are experiencing pelvic pain, pressure, leakage, or other pain, I recommend working with a women's health physical therapist before trying the front plank. So, with all that out of the way, if you want to hear more about postpartum healing timelines and gentle exercises to start reconnecting with your abs after baby, maybe this is the first time you're really hearing from me, check out the Reconnecting with Your Abs After Baby unit in the Active Mamas group on Facebook. I'll put the link in the comments below. So now, if you're ready to start progressing beyond activation of your core on your back, you can start with a plank progression, and this is something that will help you get off of the floor without needing to hold your breath, rely on momentum, or use external supports. So before we go into the full plank, since we're progressing maybe from our floor exercises, let's make sure that we have good form and an easier position. So if you are trying to tune in with this with me, go ahead and find a spot on the wall. We're going to start with a wall plank. So you're going to set your feet about hip width apart to get started, and you want to be just far enough from the wall that you have to lean in from your feet to rest your palms on the wall. Now, when you place your hands on the wall, you're going to place them about shoulder width apart. You're going to spread your fingers and just rotate your shoulders out just a little bit to protect your shoulders. Don't let those elbows hyperextend or lock out. And pro tip, you're going to think about spreading the wall with your hands. This just helps to activate your serratus anterior muscle, and that's a muscle that generally is underutilized, but especially underutilized in the postpartum period. So next, we're just going to make sure that our posture is long and tall and that we're neutral with our chin tucked slightly, not jutting that forward, and just keeping space between your ears and your shoulders. This alignment should change your ability to activate your abs, so you can kind of play around with those postures and see what feels best and easiest. So now that we have that foundation for the plank, we can start to actually talk about our abs. What you're going to do is think about drawing your hip bones together in the front. At the same time, think about drawing your pubic bone towards your face. And this just helps you to fight that natural sagging of your low back. So that's how you know you're activating those abs properly. Since we are doing a wall plank, you should be able to take one hand off the wall and check the space in between your abdominals, or what's called your linea alba. What I want you to ask yourself is, do you see a cone forming between your abs? Is that space squishy and soft, or does it feel firm? That's what we like, is for it to feel firm. Now, we're not talking about sagging skin, so we're looking at the space underneath the skin, Early postpartum, I mean, even now I have some sagging of that skin. It gets a little confusing if you're just looking and not physically checking. If you are noticing any of that coning or squishiness, try to play around and change how you're activating your abs or regress the exercise. So if you have questions about the actual activation, go back to the unit in the group that I mentioned earlier, or you can just try a simple exhale to see if you can increase your firmness. You can check up and down the linea alba or check at specific problem areas. And I recommend that you're able to hold the plank for 1 minute uninterrupted with good form and no pain before progressing, like we'll talk about today. Usually I like to progress from a wall plank to like a counter, to a couch, and then maybe a modified plank on your knees before progressing to the full plank. So a lot of work to get to the full plank. But wait, that's not all. You can actually also start to add movement of the arms and legs to the plank, and even try some side planks to give some love to the muscles on the inside and outsides of our bodies. These muscles sometimes get neglected, especially with a lot of the sitting that a lot of us do. And you have to be able to keep your base steady while you're adding that movement, so you don't want to have a lot of twisting as you do that. If you aren't ready yet, again, regress your plank to a higher surface so that you can still successfully add movement if you'd like to. Lots of other different fun ways to add movement too. And if you want to take this a step further, join in with other local moms in January in the Active Moms Postpartum Foundations Workshop that will get you from your 6-week clearance appointment back to the activities that you really enjoy by addressing your core, pelvic floor, mobility, strength, and endurance faster than you could on your own and from someone with postpartum corrective exercise training. Have you ever tried making a New Year's resolution on your own? Yeah, that never works for me either. But when you have the accountability and support from other like-minded people, you are sure to build a healthy habit that you won't regret in 2021. So if you're ready to commit to your health, sign up in the link that I've got below. And now without further ado, we're gonna get to the pregnancy section. So if you're pregnant, the time to start modifying planks would be when you no longer are able to control that coning or doming between the abdominals. Always talk with your provider if you plan to continue front abdominal work in pregnancy, but this is a good general indicator of how your abs are adapting to the loads as they accommodate for the growing babe. Remember that some spreading of your linea alba is seen in all pregnancies. When you are ready to modify, I like to work on hands and knees. So listen to your body and to your provider, but you can try what's called cat-cow or cat-camel. In the hands and knees position, you can try doing hip circles, you can try doing figure eights, as well as some core activation work here too. So we're gonna go over the hands and knees core activation, and the same concepts apply from the plank. You're just gonna stack your hands underneath your shoulders, and you're gonna have your knees stacked under your hips. And you're just gonna have similar hand positioning as well, like we talked about earlier. You can start with a simple arm lift to get some gentle activation of your core. Just pay attention to what your abs are doing, like we talked about earlier in the video. Once you have mastered that, you can progress this to lifting your legs. And once that becomes old hat, you can progress that to lifting the opposite arm and opposite leg. Just remember that pregnancy is not a time that we're focused on setting records. It's about listening to our bodies. And if you're not able to progress these exercises and all you do is continue at the same level, you are still doing wonderful things for your body and just maintaining some abdominal control and strength. So it's not for naught. With all that activating, just make sure that you aren't holding your breath and that you're able to take deep breaths. Shallow breaths might be an indicator, and this is for pregnancy or postpartum, that the exercise is too challenging or that another area of your body is not doing the proper work. So your body is compensating. Another tip for you is just to relax between sets. So just like your bicep working, we don't really hold our bicep contracted the whole time. We need to relax our bicep and activate it. So relaxing is still an important skill, especially for birth too. So we want to be strong, we want to have endurance, but we want to be able to relax and rest as well. All right, so now I want you guys to give any of those exercises a try, and then let me know what you think in the comments, or just by responding to this email if you found this video in the email. And if you have found me through YouTube, you can subscribe to my channel, but also subscribe to the newsletter that this came from in the links below to get more great tips to keep you thriving before, during, and after birth. Just remember that a healthy baby starts with a healthy mom.